Hello. I am still setting up. Oh, I should probably turn my light on. Hello, hello. People are slowly trickling in. I'm still getting my life together. Oh. That feedback you heard was me checking that my live was going live. Oh, hi, Spain. I mean, not all of Spain, but you know. Oh, this is so weird. I never do live stuff, and I have slight anxiety about doing this, but hi. Hi, everyone. My friends are watching me. That's great. Thanks, friends. Hold on. I just want to tweet out that I'm actually live now, so just give me a second to do all of those social media things. You would think, like, since I planned this in advance, I would be more organized, but I am not. It's 1 a.m. in Indonesia. Why aren't you in bed? Oh my goodness. Hi, everyone. I'm literally still getting my life together. So just give me a second to do those sorts of things. I made a slightly terrible choice of eating my leftover Thanksgiving food for lunch. And then I started to feel really sleepy. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to run to my local Walgreens, which is really close to me, and just grab a pop and then come back. And I was in my car when it hit 12 o'clock. And I was like, oh no. So feeling slightly frazzled, but it's fine. Linda, hold on. I need to show this. Yeah, basically all I do is read, especially these days where I don't leave my house very much. Yes, that's the majority of what I do. Anyways, let me take a picture of my screen so that way I can say that I'm live now on Instagram. Anyways, I don't have too much of a plan for this session or whatever you want to call this thing that we're doing, this live thing. I figured I could talk about things that I've been reading recently, show off books I could potentially read, and then, just chat and whatever. So am I working from home these days? Yeah. I work full time at home right now. I'm very lucky that the company that I work at understands that we don't need to be in the office. So there's no point in having us here. And we've been told that we'll be staying or we'll be working from home full time until June of 2021 at a minimum, which is a thing I think they also did because, or they gave us that sort of guarantee without knowing, what the future may hold, just so that way it'll make things easier for parents, because obviously parents and school stuff can be so, difficult to arrange things around, especially if you don't know if your kid's school is going to be in person or not, or if you want to send your kids in person or not, and all of that stuff. So I think they purposefully chose June of 2021 as a option for that. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Esmeralda. I appreciate that. I like that everyone's started saying what location they're in. This is really cool. It's really wild because if you look at or when I look at my analytics, sometimes I'll look at what countries people are watching from, and I'm like, oh, it's very obviously the United States, Canada, UK are the top ones, since I am an English speaker, and those are English speaking countries predominantly, but it can be wild. Oh, my friends are watching. Hi, Naomi and Sarah. Those are my friends' daughters. Am I losing track of time? Kind of. I mean, time is not a real thing anyway, so does it really matter? But yeah, kind of. I mean, I was off for Thanksgiving, and then if you aren't in the United States and you aren't aware, yesterday was Thanksgiving here in the United States. So I had the day off yesterday. I have the day off today. Today mostly just feels like a Saturday. Um, but I feel like in general, who really knows what day or time of year it is or anything like that. So, whatever. It's fine. We're all in this together. I'm gonna calmly request that my friends stop trolling me in my comment section. I do play an instrument. The people who are asking me that specifically no. And no, I will not be playing on stream. I'm already going to hijack this and say that live. No, I will never play on stream. It's really interesting. People, I'm not putting this on screen to like make myself look really amazing or anything like that, but like legitimately, a lot of people have said that like they find my videos really calming, which I find so interesting because I don't get why. I think it's possibly just because I'm very low energy compared to most YouTubers. So maybe that's what is meant by like soothing. So like people, I don't know, feel soothed. I don't. That's not a word. I don't know. Anyways, I don't understand why people find my videos soothing, but I'm assuming it's that. I'm going to answer this one first. What instrument do I play? Violin. I play violin. I've played since I was like a little kid. The people who are trolling me in the comment section, my friends who are purposefully asking about it, I've played with them before because they also play instruments and stuff like that. We played on our like church's worship team and stuff like that together. So yeah, they are purposefully calling me out because they know I hate that. What books have I enjoyed recently? Well, I'm going to talk. Oh, I mean, that's a pretty good segue. Let's talk about what I've been reading recently. So the last video that I put up was a Friday reads, like the first Friday of November, I want to say. And I took that first week off of November from work. And so I spent a lot of it reading. And so that Friday reads, I had like 5 books or something ridiculous like that to talk about that I had read within the course of a week. And then I like basically read nothing for like 2 weeks. I might have burned myself out a little bit doing all of that reading at one time. And so I basically spent a lot of time watching TV for 2 weeks. And this week is like the first week where I feel like I'm actually getting back into books. Like I started so many books and then I just like gave up on them pretty fast. So yeah, I feel like this is the first week where I started to pick up books again. And so I figured I would like talk about them, but also at the same time, I've been in a really weird mood where I can't tell if I actually like things anymore. I think I'm like, just burnt out from the year and whatever. So I'm like watching TV shows and I'm like, I don't know if I like this, but I'm just going to continue watching it. But I will say that I also give up on things very easily. So I'll stop reading books if I'm like really not enjoying them, and I'll stop watching TV shows if I'm really not enjoying them. Like I have no sort of like qualms about like giving up on stuff if I haven't like if I'm not enjoying the experience at all. So like getting through a book at this point is like I feel like an indicator that I've enjoyed the books that I'm reading. So I do want to answer some of these questions because I 100% will forget. Um, this question of have I picked my big book for this next year? So my goal for this year was to read Anna Karenina. And Anna Karenina is a book that I have been wanting to read for so long. So I wanted to do that this year. I already have a copy of it, all this stuff, and then I just never got around to doing it because I don't know, whatever, 2020, who has the capabilities to get things done anymore. So I didn't read Anna Karenina, so I want to try to read Anna Karenina next year, but I honestly might read it like in January or something like that. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do like the big August thing that I've been doing for a number of years, but I don't know. And for everyone who's like, Anna Karenina is like huge, it's a slog, all this stuff. I read War and Peace already, so that's an even longer book. That one feels like even more of a slog. If it took me 2 months to read War and Peace, and my like goal, if you aren't aware, like in August, I basically started doing this thing where I would pick one big like intimidating book to read over the course of the entire month. So I would break it up and read like a small amount every single day to make it more manageable. So I did War and Peace, obviously. I did Moby Dick. I did Middlemarch. I think I did the Brothers Karamazov one year. So I've like done this before with other big books. And I feel like personally, I really like Tolstoy. So I feel like I'm going to enjoy Anna Karenina. So I'm excited to read it. But yeah, I just might not do it in August. What's your take on the American Dirt controversy? Dude, that was in like January. I don't think that that book should have been written. I think we should be reading Own Voices books. I feel like my opinions on the American Dirt controversy is mostly what you would expect. I don't think it should have been a book that was as highly published and publicized, but you know, publishing in general is not great about that stuff. Do I have a favorite book to movie or TV show adaptation? Oh, I totally skipped a question. Oh my gosh, you guys are asking me so many great questions. I might not even get to the books that I've been reading recently. I might have to think about that one, honestly. There probably are ones. I did like Crazy Rich Asians. But I'm the type, I like Gone Girl a lot. But I'm the type of person who watches adaptations, not expecting the movies or TV shows or whatever they are to be like exact replicas of the books that they are adapting. I think that there is sort of like essence almost to a book that you just need to capture in the movie, in my opinion. And I don't need to see like scene for scene replays of things. So yeah, I know like lots of people when they watch adaptations of TV shows or adaptations of books that have been made into like movies or TV shows, they're expecting like all of the plot points to be hit and all of the characters to stay exactly the same and all of those sorts of stuff. I'm not that type of person. So I feel like Crazy Rich Asians and Gone Girl are two that I can think of off the top of my head that like really did that well. Is there anything you could relate to in Transcendent Kingdom? I actually did a whole video review of Transcendent Kingdom by Jesse, so definitely check that out on my channel because I feel like I talked about this, but there's lots of stuff I could talk about this, talk about in relation to this question. Obviously, like the growing up in a faith community and then growing up and trying to figure out your own I guess relationship to faith and what you want to choose to believe is definitely, you know, relatable for me personally because I grew up going to church. And then, you know, obviously like when you become an adult, you have to make the choice of whether or not you actually believe the things that you were taught when you were younger. Things like that. Grief is obviously something that I've dealt with. I've had plenty of people. I've had people in my life who I care about a lot pass away. And so stuff along those lines are definitely things I can relate to. Obviously growing up as a not white person in the United States, I can relate to some of the things that happened to her as well. There were lots of things. I definitely think you should, if you are interested in more of my thoughts, check out that video review. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I get to all these questions because as they like scroll through, like I'm 100% scared that I'm going to miss stuff. How to balance work from home and other hobbies and interests. I mean, I'm very lucky in that my job has emphasizes the importance of creating a work-life balance, like in a true sense. So like when you're on the clock, you're on the clock. So they're expecting you that from the hours that you are working, you are focused on work and not really focused on other things. And then when you're off the clock, you 100% should not be working on anything or should not be like checking your email and stuff like that. Like they make it so you shouldn't have email on your phone. We use Slack, and so I technically have Slack on my phone, but they don't ever want you being on during your off hours. Obviously, like, I don't have kids or anything like that, so I feel like that's probably, like, the biggest, I don't wanna say hindrance, but that's, like, probably a major obstacle for a lot of people. So I don't have, like, a kid I need to take care of while I'm working and stuff like that. And I've also set up, I have a lot of, like, crazy benefits in my life. Um, so for me, like, I have my work from home set up, like the computer and everything, in like a specific part of the house that I only go to basically when I'm working from home. So my home is big enough that I can have that separate space, which I know a lot of people don't have. But if you are able to set up like a table or a desk to the side, um, that has, like, your work from home setup, and, like, you can, like, just have that as a desk that you only use from work from home. I feel like that, like, separation is really great. Hopefully that helps. Um, yeah, this is honestly, like, my favorite thing that I do because I think a lot of times, especially being on BookTube, sorry, I didn't mean to cover my mouth there. I think a lot of times, especially on BookTube, there's a lot of pressure to, like, read things fast and push through as many books as possible so you can create as much content as possible, or at least I definitely have that pressure, or feel that pressure a lot of times. And so, I think or when I started this, I realized that I was neglecting sort of like the bigger books sitting on my physical TBR. And I didn't like that because they were books I was genuinely interested in, but I didn't want to devote the time to it that would like stop me from reading other books that would let me create content basically. Um, and so I feel like breaking up a big book into manageable chunks makes it so much more, not e I mean, it's partially it's digestible, like, especially with a book like War and Peace and Moby Dick and stuff like that. Like, those books are so dense and there's so much information being conveyed in a single chapter that reading large chunks at a time, I felt like would have been too difficult for me to actually understand what was happening. And especially with books like Moby Dick and War and Peace and stuff like that that are slightly more complicated, like, what I would literally do is like read the section that I had assigned, and then I would go look up the Spark Notes and read the Spark Notes of the section to make sure I actually understood what was happening. I think a lot of people are afraid to like get help when they're reading complicated books, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Oh, I definitely want to read Soulless by Gail Carringer. I'm not exactly sure how to say her name. This has been one of those books that I know so many people love it, and I have a feeling I would enjoy it too, but I just haven't gotten around to. What are the books you're hoping to read before the end of the year? Well, let's see, can I do this? It's mirrored, so probably not. This is a giant stack of library books that I have checked out from the library, some of which will need to be either read or given back before the end of the year. I don't make specific TBRs anymore, and I don't have anything, especially lately. I mentioned this toward the beginning of the stream, but like my mood has been so all over the place, and I've also just been feeling generally burnt out. So I've been giving up on books a lot more. So like even my nonfiction November TBR, I read all of the books on there except for one, and the one book that I read, I basically DNF'd, and it wasn't like this book is bad, so I'm giving up on it. DNF, by the way, means did not finish. I realize I say that phrase a lot, and a lot of times people are like, "What is a DNF?" So DNF means I did not finish. I chose to not finish the book. Um, so yes, it was Spirit Run, and I don't think it's a bad book at all. But I could just tell with like my headspace, I could not be able to get through that book and properly comprehend what was happening and all that stuff. Uh, and I have a feeling that a lot of the books by the way, this is my library, that front stack is my library books checked out, and then all of the books behind it are my physical TBR. So any of those books are books that I want to try to read before the end of the year, but I'm not going to make like a specific list or pile or anything like that because one, I feel like I've mostly gotten through the books that I was really, really excited for this year, which is exciting, I think uh, partially because I've been reading so much. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the comments. I need to be better at this. Okay. Yeah. So I've gotten through almost all of the books that I've wanted to read that I was like excited for, or I was hearing good things about that I wanted to try because I read so much this year. So I don't have anything I think left this year that I'm like, oh man, I'm really sad I didn't get to this book this year. So hello to all my real life friends who are coming in. I'm very excited that you guys are coming by. Would you ever do another read along? I talked about this a little bit before because someone was asking about what books I want to read next year. And I said I wanted to read Anna Karenina, but I'm not sure if I want to do the August thing anymore. It's a lot of work. Well, one, it's a lot of work to coordinate. Two, I'm really bad at read alongs and stuff like that. I don't like. I don't know. I'm the type of person where I don't like discussing books until I've completed it. And so I don't do read-alongs very well. Like I don't personally, this is a personal feeling and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think I'm very good at fostering community in that way. Like there are some people who like create Goodreads groups and like have the hashtag on Twitter and Instagram and is constantly engaging with the other people who are reading the book. I am not good at that because I just don't spend a lot of time on those platforms anymore. And that's not the way I prefer talking about books. Like maybe if I did another read along type of thing, I would do a live video like this sort of thing. So it would be more of a live discussion. But I don't know if I would actually do it. I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I'm leaning towards no right now, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I've stopped buying from Amazon as much as possible. I don't want to say like buying from Amazon is bad because I do recognize that there's value to Amazon, especially if you're someone who lives in areas where they don't have where you don't have access to as much stuff. Like I live in the suburbs of Chicago, so I have plenty of access to things. But I do think that Amazon's control over the marketplace in the wide sense is getting way too strong. I'm the type of person who wants to support local businesses. So I love going to independent bookstores and stuff like that. I've also realized like I don't really like online shopping for books as much anymore. Like if I want a specific book, yes, buying it online is very nice. But I'm the type of person who likes going to bookstores and browsing and just seeing what's there. Maybe I'll do a bookstore haul because at the beginning of November, when I took that week off of work, I went to a couple of bookstores and I bought so many books that I never would have picked up otherwise, just because they're just like what I saw and what like the bookstores were recommending and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm like very I use Amazon as basically like my last resort at this point. And there's like plenty of other things, you can Google it. Amazon has like a reputation for being terrible to its employees, both corporately as well as the warehouse employees. I just saw an article in the Seattle Times within the past couple of weeks that said like it's had so many workers' compensation claims pulled against it that now Amazon's like insurance tier or whatever is put in this to the same tier as like iron workers and like other like careers that actually are actually dangerous jobs as opposed to like a warehouse employee, which in theory shouldn't be dangerous, but because of the way they treat them, it's not great. Things like that. Like I still have my Kindle. It's like sitting right here. Because I bought this years and years ago. So I use it for if I get any ARCs. I haven't been requesting ARCs lately because I feel like I have enough books that I don't really need to. And then I get like library ebooks this way, especially like when everything was closed because of coronavirus and stuff like that. Like it was really nice to be able to get library books on my Kindle. So like I still have it, but I try very hard not to give them any more money. But again, that's a personal choice. And I recognize there's a lot of privilege in that. I make enough money that I'm not dependent on those things, et cetera, et cetera. So this is not me making a value judgment on other people, but this is the choice that I have made. I usually put out my top books of the year. My favorite books of the year is what I could say because whatever. I'm all about semantics. I usually put it out on like Christmas Eve time because I like to wait until I've actually, feel like I've read the books that I could potentially put on that list. Like there have been a lot of times where I've read a book at like the beginning or middle of December that ended up on that list. So I like to wait till as close to the end of the year as possible before I put out that list. What about I think about giving up? So if you aren't aware, Goodreads is owned by Amazon, and I've actually legitimately thought a lot about getting rid of my Goodreads account. The only thing that is holding me back is that I like there are certain people I follow on Goodreads whose like recommendations I take very seriously. That sounds like a very serious statement, but like when they recommend things, like their tastes align with mine alike a lot. So I definitely use it for that. And I use it a lot when I'm shopping in bookstores. Like I said earlier, like I like going to independent bookstores and browsing. And like one of the things I do is like look up the books on Goodreads if I haven't heard of them before, to see if other people I know have read them and like if they have like what they thought of them and stuff like that. And so that helps a lot when I'm like in independent bookstores and seeing a bunch of books that I've never heard of before, to figure out whether or not it would be a good purchase for me and stuff like that. So like that's like my hesitation with getting rid of Goodreads. Because I do find it to be an actual helpful resource. So like I was saying before, like I just try not to give Amazon any more money. I realize that I'm giving Amazon data, and that's also very important information for them, but I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to give up Goodreads because I feel like I do actually get a lot of benefit that I'm not sure if I can get that benefit other places. What recording setup do I have? Okay, so this thing that you are seeing is a Blue Yeti mic. This is what I use to record my podcasts. And we use GarageBand to record. And so if you're okay, I should probably back up for anyone who isn't aware. I co-host a podcast for Book Riot called Read or Dead, which is a mystery thriller podcast, and I do it with Katie McLean. And the way that we do it is we do a call over Skype, like a voice call over Skype, and then we record our individual like things, like our individual audio on or through GarageBand. And then we send it to an audio editor. So like because I'm doing it through Book Riot has sound editors who edit all the podcasts that are produced through them. So I don't have to do any of the editing myself. The only thing I have to do is record the audio, obviously, and then like make the posts, ready with all the links, show notes, links, and all that stuff. So I don't have to do any of the editing side of things. So I'm not sure like how that part of it works. And then for my video setup, there's no way. Yeah, I was going to be like, let me rotate my giant iMac monitor, but that's not going to happen. Basically, I have a Canon T3i, so it is very old. I bought this camera when I first started doing booktube videos in 2012. So there are much nicer versions of this, but it's the Canon T3i. The lens I use on it is a 50 millimeter lens. And so that's why I get like the nice blurry background. And then like it's literally sitting on a stack of books, so I don't even own a tripod. And then I always tell people like if you need good lighting, like my lighting setup is this lamp back here, and I have a lamp over here in this corner that have bright, like the daylight bulb. So I got LEDs that are like the daylight wattage. So it's not like that yellow tone, it's more of a white blue tone, and that makes it a lot better. And so you can like kind of Google these things as well, but like the things that you need like sort of like a 3-point setup with your lights. I have a 2-point setup because I haven't figured out how to get a third in here because my room isn't big enough. But I feel like it works fine. And then I edit all my videos on Final Cut Pro. Yeah, my library is still open. So I live in like I said, the Chicagoland area, Chicagoland suburbs. And the things are slowly starting to get more restrictions. So our library was open for browsing before, but now they've changed it so only the lobby is open to pick up holds. So you can put holds online, or you could call them and put books on hold, and then like when it's available, you can like go into the lobby and pick it up. But even when it was fully open for browsing, I would never go and I chose not to go and browse. Like I would just put things on hold and then wait for that to be ready and then just go to the library to pick them up. So yeah, lucky enough to do that. I'm really bad at book clubs. So this is kind of goes back to, again, the Anna Karenina thing. If you aren't aware, you haven't been around long enough, I used to do like a big book every August. And then I would kind of like tell everyone what the big book was and what my schedule was. And I would put out like, for some of them, I put out like videos every week. just talking about the book. And so I guess I have done a book club in that sense. But in general, I'm really bad at book clubs because I'm such a mood reader that if I'm not, I feel like when I try to do book clubs or I try to do read alongs that other people are hosting, for some reason, as soon as my brain thinks I have to do a book, read a book, my brain wants to do everything. Everything except read that book. So I feel like I'm really bad at book clubs in that sense. And I'm, again, such a mood reader that I can't guarantee that a book that I'm supposed to read within like a certain time frame will actually get read by me in a way that's useful. I feel like for me, the best, like the thing that people tell me that they enjoy the most for me are my videos, or my, obviously, my video reviews, my book reviews. And I feel like the best book reviews I put out are just when I've read a book and I genuinely feel like I have something to say about it versus being forced to talk about something that I don't really have a lot of feelings on. So, oh my gosh, you guys are asking so many questions. Hi, thank you so much for coming. Let me drink some water. Yeah, so if you aren't aware, so this book, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. So these two bookshelves you see behind me, the mirroring thing is really throwing me off. Sorry. The two bookshelves you see behind me, along with that dresser, are all filled with books right now. Or as close to full. I think that dresser is as close to full as it can get. I think there might be a little bit more space. So yes, I do get rid of books. I go to Half Price Books. We have Half Price Books near me. You can Google that if you're not sure what it is, but it's basically a chain used bookstore, and they will take back books. And then we also have a bookstore here in the Chicagoland area called Open Books, which is a nonprofit bookstore. And so they use the sales, so you can donate to them. Like obviously they won't pay you for it, but you can donate books to them, and then they use the profits from their sales to create and host literacy programs throughout the Chicago area. So that's a great store that I love shopping at and donating to, but I just don't get out to that area very much anymore. So I feel like Half Price Books is definitely a thing. I don't give books to my friends because I don't think any of them want it. Because usually if I'm getting rid of books, it's books I don't enjoy too, or it's books I don't love. So I wouldn't like give that to someone else because I don't, because usually my friends want me recommend, if they're coming to me for book recommendations, I'm telling them about the books that I absolutely loved. And if I really loved a book, I'm not getting rid of it. I will run out of space obviously eventually, but I feel like over time, like my interest in keeping books changes. So I can definitely tell like when a book that I loved once is no longer a book I love anymore, and I'm okay with getting rid of it at that time. Yeah, never say never. I'm really behind on these comments. Sorry, I'm talking so much. However, I watched Queen's Gambit and I really enjoyed it. And there are certain things about it that I didn't enjoy quite as much. I have some issues with like the way the final episode went down, which is I think just me being nitpicky. But honestly, the Queen's Gambit I think is really really great. It's on Netflix if you aren't aware. It basically feels like a sports movie. Like if you've watched sports movies before, and that sort of like arc is basically what happens in Queen's Gambit. It's about a girl who's like a chess prodigy kind of thing. So yeah, I highly recommend it and I really enjoy it. And I definitely like Googled it afterwards and was like, is this a real story? That's how well done it was. I didn't read the book. But I like legitimately Googled it to see if it was like a fictionalization of someone's life because I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm the same way. So like generally the way I am with bookstores is like I love going to physical books, or I love going to bookstores when I'm traveling. And then since I haven't been traveling at all this year, obviously, I'm not going to bookstores. And then I live in, again, Chicago suburbs. So there are so many great bookstores in this area. And so like generally what I would do is I would just go to them as I was in those neighborhoods. So yeah, I just haven't been going out, this year. So I hadn't been going to bookstores. And so I was getting a lot of books from the library this year, which is great. And then as I was finding like books that I really loved that I wanted to add to my collection, I would basically go to my favorite indies in the Chicagoland area and buy the book from them through their websites and have it shipped. But in the first week of November, I took the week off and I went to a Barnes& Noble in my area that recently got remodeled. And the remodel was fantastic. And I bought so many books there. And then I went to my favorite indie in Chicago, or one of my favorites. It's like a top 3, I would say, called Unabridged Bookstores. And I bought so many books while I was there too. So it was great. No, I'm so tired. Like, that's why I'm also doing a live, is because even this week, I was like, I probably should make a video because I've read some books, but I really don't feel like making a video. So, yeah, I'm doing a live instead. But I've been sitting here for like 30 minutes answering your guys' questions that I haven't even talked about the books I've been reading recently. Someone I see down here, someone just asked, what are you reading right now? So when I get to that one, I'll actually talk about the books I've been reading. Yeah. Yes. And yes to the last question. I've read, this is how much I love Murakami. I legitimately don't even remember what books I've read by him. I think I've read 1, maybe 2. Hold on, I'm like looking up I think I read Norwegian Wood. That's the one I want to say I read, but I don't want to like say that for sure. So yeah, I read Norwegian Wood. And that's the only one I've read. I read that book and I was just like, I don't think Murakami's for me. I'm not the type of person to like completely slam authors or books or anything like that. Like, I get that, some books are for some people and some books are for other people. But I didn't get along with that style. So I'm not, it's fine. Sometimes I don't, fantasy in general is not like my preferred genre, I guess. Like, I'm much more of a contemporary reader than a fantasy reader. And I feel like the young adult fantasy that I like is always like the not to be super hipster about it, but like the less popular young adult fantasy. Like, I don't like stuff that's super plot driven. I like character focused stuff, and I like really, really slow moving young adult fantasy. What is the young adult fantasy book I read recently? Thorn. If you go back, there's a book by Intisar Kanani, I think is what it is. Sorry, I completely butchered that. But just look up Thorn, or you can like go through my past videos, and that's a book that I really enjoyed recently that's considered young adult fantasy. I basically imported all of my stuff into Storygraph and then stopped using it immediately. If I stopped using Goodreads, I might just go to using a spreadsheet like privately, because I legitimately haven't found anything that I've enjoyed quite like Goodreads. So yeah, sorry, I'm just moving things so I can talk. I'm getting close to the what are you reading right now. Also, thank you very much to everyone who's saying like they like my videos and they like my reviews and all that stuff, because that means a lot. I appreciate it. Sorry, that's me reaching for the book that I've read recently. Watch Over Me by Nina Clore. This is a really good book. It's young adult. I haven't read any Nina LaCour before, but everyone really enjoyed her other book. What is it called? We Are Okay. And that one like piqued my interest. But then the way people were talking about this one, I was like, oh, that actually might be really good to get. So I got it from the library and I really liked it. So a preface to all of this is that I said this earlier in the stream, so I apologize. I'm repeating myself a lot, but I realize like people are coming in, later than everyone else or than other people. So I apologize to everyone who's heard this before. So I read a lot of books in the first week in November, and I put up an actual Friday Reads video on it. And I read a lot of books that week, and then the 2 weeks following that, I did not finish a single book. I could not concentrate. I may have burnt myself out a little bit with how much I read that first week. And so this was the first book that like kept my attention. Sorry, I'm trying to hold this at an angle that you can see it, but it also doesn't get the window glare. Anyways, yeah, so this is the first book I finished, and it's really beautiful. It's really quiet. And it deals a lot with grief. You're following this character named Mila, who has worked her way through the foster system, or has like lived through the foster system, and she turns 18 and gets basically hired to work on this farm that's owned by this couple that fosters a bunch of kids and also like hires people to work on the farm area who have been through the foster system and stuff like that. And so the story is about sort of like her dealing with the grief of her past because she has been through things. Spoiler, no spoilers or anything like that. And like the thing about this book is that like ghosts exist, but they exist in a way that's not like a fantasy book or a horror book or anything like that. It's just sort of like our world, but there are also ghosts, and those ghosts play a part in telling the story of Mila. And it was, yeah, it was really beautiful. I kind of wish it was a little bit longer. Like it's a pretty short book. I think it's less than 300 pages. And so I kind of wish it was a little bit longer. And I also think that it was kind of, I don't want to say predictable, but I think the things that were supposed to be reveals in here and the things that I've seen other people mark as like spoilers, I didn't think of them as spoilers at all because I felt like it was pretty obvious what Nina LaCour was saying from the very beginning. But maybe that's just me. And maybe if you are of young adult age, it will seem like more of a spoiler, which is why I'm not talking about it too much. But I really enjoyed this a lot. I think if you like quiet young adult books, this would definitely be something worth checking out. And now I want to go back and read more books from her. The book I am currently reading is The Ant Who Wouldn't Die. Also, both of these are books that Matthew Sharapa mentioned in a video as like back-to-back ghost reads, and now I'm reading them back-to-back just because they're both due back at the library. This book is really fun and really fantastic. It's translated from Bengali. Oh gosh, that's not a language, is it? Hold on, I'm gonna Google that. Being an Indian, I'm very disappointed in myself. Yeah, it is a language, Bengali. Great. Oh man, I didn't screw that up. Oh, sweating. These are the things that you don't see when I'm recording. I would edit that out. Anyways, this is translated from Bengali. The author is a Bangladeshi author, and apparently this was published back in the 90s and is considered like a modern classic. I'm only halfway through it, if you can see that little bookmark there, but I'm really enjoying this a lot. So those are two of my recent reads. I read The Five by Hallie something. I can't remember the author's last name right now. And I liked the book. I think I might even just known too much about it going into it. And I also listened to the audiobook, and it was also during that time period that I was saying like nothing was working for me. So yeah, I didn't. It was fine. I think I just like expected more from it from the way that everyone else was talking about it. So I liked it. I would recommend it, but it wasn't necessarily one of my favorite things. No, never. Everyone asks me that all the time. I don't think if reading a lot of books means that you necessarily want to write a book. I understand, like, obviously, like, it kind of goes the other way, where if you want to write a book, you probably should be reading a lot of books, but I don't think that reading a lot of books means that you should write your own book. I don't have a story in me to tell that, or that I feel like telling or anything like that. So yeah. I went to Walgreens and I bought myself a pop and I didn't drink it, so I'm going to get it really quick. Okay, great. Do you find reading? Yeah, 100%. Like I'm the type of person where even when I'm watching like movies or anything like that, or in the middle of like a season of a TV show, stuff like that, I don't like talking about it because I feel like my thoughts don't form fully until I'm done with a book, which is why, again, I don't do well with like book clubs or like read-alongs and stuff like that, just because I feel like I don't have much to say until I've read the book fully to talk about it with other people. And then I mean, I'm obviously fine. Like I've definitely done the thing before where like a friend and I have sat at a coffee shop with a book and we've all just been reading together. So in that sense, it's like not solitary in those situations, but for the most part, yeah, it's solitary. Oh gosh, Shayna, I have no idea. This is my friends, by the way. I don't, if I could be a character from any book, like part of me is like, I really like characters like Katniss Everdeen and stuff like that, but I don't want to be living in those worlds, like the Hunger Games worlds. Like that's terrible. Yeah, I don't know. I also feel like I read a lot of tragic books. So I don't really want to be living those lives. And my life is honestly not that bad. I'm trying to like look at my books now to see if there's anything. I feel like if I was going to choose something, it would be something like a fantasy book because it'd be like a world unlike the one that we currently live in. But I don't know if there's one that I necessarily definitely want to live in because they all are like super messed up at the exact same time. So I don't know. Yeah, I am just sorry, Ethan, if you only jumped in here and or have gone already. But yes, I will be trying. I will make sure or try to make sure that the live stream will be on my channel after today. Okay, so I just wanted to post this. So there's been two remodels of Barnes and Noble stores. So there was a remodel that happened before the current owner took over, which is actually one of the Barnes and Nobles in my area also got that remodel, or in my area. I mean, it's kind of 30 minutes away from me or something like that. But yeah, so that's the one with all of the like sort of front-facing books everywhere, and it seems like the selection is pretty terrible and stuff like that. The remodel, the other store that I went to is different. So Barnes and Noble was bought by the CEO of Waterstones, which is a London bookstore chain. And so the one in my area is like, I think, one of the first in the country to get this new version of Barnes and Noble, and this one was fantastic. And I don't know how much of this was from like Barnes and Noble corporate, like from the people high upon the mountaintop, or how much of this is from like the local people who are working in this specific Barnes and Noble. But the selection was amazing. Like I have never walked into a Barnes and Noble and been surprised before, because I feel like for anyone else who lives in the United States, tell me if you feel the same way. But especially as someone who like obviously reads a lot of books and pays attention to books a lot, it is like I walk into a Barnes and Noble and everything that I see there is something that I expect. And so I'm never surprised walking into a Barnes and Noble. When I walked into this Barnes& and Noble, I was so surprised. Like, there were books in there that I had never heard of before and never seen before, and that never happens to me at Barnes& and Noble. Like, that's what I expect at an independent bookstore and not a Barnes& and Noble at all. And so it was, like, just as big as other I mean, it wasn't, like, 2 floors or anything like that, but it was, like, a decently sized bookstore with a lot of selection of books that I had never heard of before, but I was genuinely interested in. So yeah, I'm hoping that all of the Barnes and Nobles move to this version, because I think it had a really good balance of books that you would expect. So books that will sell well so the company can be profitable. But at the same time, I feel like um, it has enough new and different things that it feels more like an independent bookstore. So I don't pay attention to the Booker at all, because the Booker Prize, I never get along. Basically, I usually if a book wins the Booker Prize, it's not a book I enjoy anyways. Like I don't get along with the books that they choose for their shortlists and winners and stuff like that. So I generally don't pay attention to it. I'm also pretty bad at paying attention to all book prizes, so I'm sure it was fine. But I don't pay attention to it. I don't know if I have one that I particularly enjoy. I will say I don't enjoy World War II historical fiction, just because I feel like it's very um overdone. And I think this is my hot take for the live stream. I feel like World War II fiction basically plays on the fact that everyone, no matter where you live in the world, is aware of World War II, and there's already a lot of emotional attachment to what happened during those events. And there's a very clear cut good guys, bad guys set up to World War II, which again is another reason why I feel like it's a very popular war to like study and talk about and know about and all that stuff, because there are very clear like good guys and bad guys. And I think a lot of historical fiction writers don't develop their stories enough and don't develop their characters enough, and use the knowledge that everyone has about World War II as almost a crutch. So you go into it already with a kind of emotional heaviness that the authors themselves tend to not feel like they need to put into it. So it feels like they aren't written as well, in my opinion, as other historical fiction books. There's my hot take. Look, um, the full name is Soda Pop. Both soda and pop are correct, in my opinion, as someone who has grown up saying pop. That's my other hot take. No one is wrong in that discussion. Both soda and pop are correct. I'm catching up with comments. Great. Speaking of World War II novels, All the Light We Never Could See, that Anthony Foer book that came out, I think it's Anthony Foer book, with the blue cover. It was so popular. It was like the top of the New York Times bestseller. Not that that means anything, but it was like a bestseller for like so long. And it won a bunch of awards. And all this stuff. And I couldn't get through it at all. So I gave up on it pretty quick. I didn't understand what the hype was about with that book. Oh, didn't mean to unclick it. So I'm trying to, if you aren't aware, I have this basically lifelong project. I'm not rushing through this at all, but a lifelong project to read at least one biography on every president. I didn't read one this year, which now that I'm thinking about it, I should probably like order a book online for it. And so I think the last one I read was a John Adams book. So I think next up is James Madison. I don't know my presidents that well, or at least presidential order. Let's see, presidential order. I think James Madison. Oh, not the order of succession. Just give me the list of vice presidents who have ever existed. No, this is list of U.S. presidents. Thank you, Wikipedia. Oh, I read a Thomas Jefferson one. So yeah, James Madison is next. I had a feeling James Madison was next on the list. So I need to figure out which James Madison biography I'm going to read. And then hopefully I will do that next year. Read. That's basically, I don't have anything specific planned for the weekend. I need to clean and things like that. But other than that, nothing. Oh, that's good. Good to know. I think that might be why then I like the new design of one of the suburban Chicago. If you live in the suburbs of Chicago, I'm talking about the Schaumburg Barnes and Noble. They like move locations and they redesigned the store, and I think the selection is fantastic. I did. I read, oh gosh, my Nonfiction November TBR video is up on my channel, and I read all of the books on there. Minor Feelings was pretty good. That is a book, an essay collection that deals with like the Asian American experience. I'd been hearing good things about it all year, and I finally read it. What else did I read for Nonfiction November? I'm trying to look at my bookshelf. Hold on. Like, I legitimately don't remember what other books I read for Nonfiction November. Anyways, I read all of them except Spirit Run, and I clearly the rest of them left a really great impact on me because I genuinely don't remember what I read. So yeah, we'll just keep moving. But yeah, I love nonfiction books. I just don't read enough of them. And I definitely have like more nonfiction books that I've checked out from the library that I'm hoping to get through to later. I haven't decided yet. So in general, I like presidential biographies, but I don't like presidential memoirs because I feel like most presidential memoirs or memoirs in general by politicians are basically just trying to sell you something, like an idea or why they're right, or why their choices while they were president were right. So I've never read a presidential presidential autobiography. The only thing I've read was Obama's Dreams from My Father book, because he wrote that before he chose to be a politician. So I feel like that's the only one that I would ever read, unless there are other biographies out there or memoirs out there by presidents that they wrote before they became a politician. Because I feel like, and especially I feel like a lot of times politicians put out memoirs and biography or autobiographies like right around the time that they're running for a major political office. So I feel like it's not so much biography as it feels like propaganda in my opinion. So I avoid most of them. And it's why if you go back and watch my Michelle Obama Becoming book review, I think I mentioned that in there. I was like hesitant about picking it up originally, but I decided to give it a chance because she's not necessarily a politician herself. And I had a feeling that if it was done well, she wouldn't necessarily be talking about the actual political stuff that happened, in terms of like the choices that um, Obama made while he was president and things along those lines. So, yeah. Oh, thank you. I think it went well. I mean, I read, like I was saying earlier, I think I put 4 books on my like TBR, and I read 3 out of the 4 of them. I realized like today that November is basically over now. I didn't realize how close to the end of the month we were. So it's over on like Monday, but I have a bunch of these books checked out from the library, and I think out of that stack that's sitting there like in the front, I'm not doing this well. Stupid mirroring. So this, like I said this earlier, but this stack right in the front are all books checked out from the library. And so on that stack, I have 1, 2, 3 more nonfiction books that I didn't mention, that I could potentially read sometime soon. So scariest book I've ever read. I don't really read scary books because I'm a baby. So I don't read a lot of them. I read thrillers. What's that book? The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James is kind of a ghost story. And it is kind of anxiety inducing at times. So that's definitely one, but I don't know if it's a book that other people would consider scary because again, I'm a giant baby. So I find things scary more than other people do and things along those lines. I honestly haven't done any 2021 prepping, I guess. My hair is terrible right now. I haven't looked at what books are coming out in 2021 at all. I feel like because of COVID, release dates obviously got really messed up, like things moved around a lot. So I felt like I spent a lot of this year just trying to keep up with how and when things were releasing this year that I haven't even bothered to look at stuff for next year. I mean, I would be fine with it. I don't know what this would look like. I am not friends with anyone who lives in the Chicagoland area who makes booktube videos, so a in-person thing wouldn't be realistic. I have done stuff with Mari from My Name is Marianus before. Like she does stuff for Booknet Fest. Took me a second to remember. Booknet Fest. And this year I did a podcast episode because they couldn't obviously meet in person for that. And that was fun. And I think I've also done her like favorites, least favorites that she does at the end of every year on that. So I've done stuff like that. But yeah, I'm really bad at thinking of good collaborations with other people. Yeah, I mean, I feel the exact same way. So like when a number of years ago, I think I read one of Rob Lowe's memoirs, and it basically just felt like him bragging about himself. I mean, obviously it like depends on the person. And the book that they are choosing to write. But some of them I feel like are genuine people who are genuinely telling you the story of their life. And some of them are just them cashing in on the fact that they are popular and therefore people will buy their book. And some of them are books just trying to brag about themselves. So I mean, I think it very much varies from person to person. But yeah, I don't read a lot of singers or actors sort of memoirs. I've read comedian memoirs, and I feel like my sort of rule of thumb with comedian memoirs is if you like the comedian, then you will probably like their memoir, and vice versa. Is if you don't like the comedian, you probably won't like their memoir because like their style of humor is completely imbued into the books that they're writing. So it's a very much like a your mileage may vary sort of thing. Hmm. Good question. Hold on. Have you the hesitation that I have with this is mostly just because I don't have sensitivity to graphic violence in books the way some other people do. Like, I don't really feel like I have significant triggers in that sense. So sometimes when I'm reading a book, I don't recognize if it is graphic or not. So I will say, like, take these recommendations with a slight grain of salt. But sometimes I do reckon, like, sometimes I do like kind of cringe if something's like really graphic. So let me see. I feel like Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby might be a good one, because that one I remember as being kind of like, it's action packed in the sense that it's has really strong driving scenes. Like, it's the driving scenes are what makes it action packed. But I don't necessarily remember anything being like super super graphic in that sense. But it's not like a cozy or like a historical mystery in that sense. Sorry, now I'm burping because I've chosen to drink pop on stream. This is all terrible choices in my life. So I feel like, I feel like Blacktop Wasteland might be a good one to check out. I'm kind of like scrolling through my Goodreads right now to see if there's something else that like pops out at me. If you like suspense books, I feel like Shelter by Jung Yoon might be a good one. That one was like really, I felt like anxiety inducing, but it's not graphic. So yeah, that might also be a good one. I think again, the Sundown Motel is another one that's kind of like more suspensey and not really graphic, from what I remember. So I think that one might be okay, but that one I'm slightly more hesitant on because I genuinely can't. There's a slight chance there might be stuff that's considered like graphic, but not that I can remember off the top of my head. I feel like Gone Girl is like my go-to answer for this, but there's probably other ones that I've read. The Snowman by Joe Nesba. That one is super graphic, but it was definitely like a page turner for sure. I'm assuming you mean my videos. It depends. So like when I'm recording my videos, I usually repeat myself a decent amount to rephrase things. So like whatever you see um on my videos for like the timestamp, usually add about like 10 more minutes on top of it. That's how long it takes me to record. So recording a video these days takes me anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. But it can take longer or shorter, obviously, depending on the number of books I'm talking about, etc. So, and then editing takes me another 30 minutes to an hour. And then I have to upload it, make a thumbnail. I haven't been doing closed captionings on my videos recently because like YouTube changed its closed captioning system and everything is like so much more difficult and I hate it. So that's my bad. But that'll take me like another 30 minutes or so. So yeah, it does take a decent amount of time. I do record in advance. So that way, like so I'm not like doing things like up to a deadline, basically. I try to like space it out a little bit, but yeah, it does take a couple of hours for a single video. We've never actually met in person. So Katie actually lives in the Chicagoland area as well. And we've never met in person before because we're, terrible. Oh, didn't mean that. Again, Blacktop Wasteland, fantastic. It basically feels like a Fast and the Furious movie made into a book, which may or may not seem like a diss, but I don't mean it as a diss at all. Like, it was so much fun. And again, I'm not usually someone who reads a lot of like action books, and so I feel like it had a really great balance between like action-y stuff and also like character stuff, but it was just like a really, really fun book to read, and it 100% needs to be like adapted into a movie. Other mysteries that I've read that brought me a lot of joy. Oh, Winter Counts was also really good too. It's not, I don't know if I would say like necessarily like brought me joy like that, sort of like it wasn't I wouldn't say it's a fun book, but it's like a really cool book. The atmosphere was fantastic. I really enjoyed reading that book as well. And I think he does a lot of really good things in terms of like taking style of the mystery genre, and he doesn't necessarily create something new out of it, but because it's set on like a reservation and things like that, um it creates something new out of like something that's might be more standard. No, so the new Jane Harper is only out in, I think, Australia and like maybe the UK, but it's not out yet in the United States. So I think it's coming out in February here. But I'm very excited for it. I don't request advanced readers copies very much, just because I get very overwhelmed by the number of books that I have, and especially digital advanced readers copies. Like I put them on my Kindle and then I forget about them. Like they just like it basically is putting them into a black hole in for me. So yeah, I will be reading that when it comes out here in the United States, but it's not out yet. Yeah, I found it to be really disappointing, honestly. I did talk about it. I don't know if I did an individual review on it or I just talked about it in like a wrap up, like a Friday reads situation. But I definitely did talk about it more in length in a video. But I was pretty disappointed by it. But that's a very personal opinion. I'm not. I always like give this sort of preference when I talk about books that I didn't enjoy as much. Like I understand why other people enjoyed it, but it didn't really do much for me. I found it to be extremely slow moving, which is not a thing that I am mad about because I enjoyed The Witch Elm, but I felt like The Witch Elm went somewhere. Like it was slow moving with a purpose, and it slowly like built up the tension over the course of the story. But I feel like with her new book, The Trespasser, it didn't really do anything. I think I was also slightly irritated because the cop in the story is someone who's a former Chicago cop, who moves to Ireland, and being from the Chicagoland area, like I was like, just I felt like Tana French was using Chicago cop as a shorthand for being an American cop, but being a Chicago cop is very different from being a cop in other cities, in my opinion. But maybe that's again just a bias of like growing up in the Chicagoland area. And then there were also like random chapters in there where the character is trying to explain why he's a good cop, which I think was possibly done on purpose, but I don't think it was done well enough. If I'm giving Tana French the benefit of the doubt, what she was trying to do was explain why the character thought of himself as being a good cop, but you as a reader aren't necessarily supposed to take it as him being a good cop. But I don't think she did it effectively. So I don't think most readers will think that. Yeah. So I was pretty disappointed in that one. Sometimes it depends on my mood and how much I can focus on a book. I legitimately will just put my iTunes on shuffle and just have that playing in the background like quietly while I'm reading. And sometimes I do it also to like drown out the noise of the rest of the house while I'm reading, but I don't like put on specific things while I'm reading. Like I'm not the type of person who has like mood playlists or anything like that sort of set up. So it's legitimately just like a shuffle through my entire discography. Yeah, I like a lot of different music. I like indie pop rock sort of thing. So I like Bastille. I've been listening to, oh, I need to like look at my Spotify because I honestly don't know the names of anything that I've been listening to recently. Or actually, I should. Fleet Foxes. Fleet Foxes put out an album this year that I really enjoy. Leon, who is a female artist that I really enjoy. I think she had a album come out last year. Mr. Wives, I like a lot. This year they put out a song called Three Small Words I really like. Elisa Kara. I don't know how to say anyone's names. Sorry. She put out a unplugged sort of live album thing this year that I really liked, that I've been listening to a lot of. Yeah, things along those lines, that sort of like bands and artists that sort of like are cross the line of like indie and pop and rock are kind of like my jam. I think they are two very different skill sets. Okay, well, actually, I take that back, but only because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, I feel like I don't read enough short stories to actually make that assessment. But I do think they are two different skill sets. Like, I think some people are really good at the constraints of short stories. And so when they are given the sort of freedom of, 300 pages or something to write a story, they don't necessarily have the skill set to utilize it well, but and sort of vice versa. I think some people have a hard time figuring out how to write short stories in a way that feel satisfactory, because short stories are more than just like part of a story, in my opinion. Like, a short story should feel like a complete story, which I don't think every author is capable of doing well. So I don't know. But I think it does give you a good sense of their writing style and the topics that they might enjoy writing about, which could help judge an author for you. Yeah, Emily, I don't want to say like the new ton of French wasn't good, but it just wasn't good for me, because there's a lot of people I'm friends with who really enjoyed the new ton of French book. I just personally wasn't into it. So yeah, I'm not going to like, again, say like people shouldn't give it a try, but I will say that like, if it's not working, if you give it a try, like if you get it from the library or something along those lines, you like should, like, if you're reading it, basically, sorry, I lost my train of thought. If you start reading the book and you're not enjoying it like 50 pages in or something like that, I think the beginning of the book gives you a good sense of what this book is going to be like. So you'll be able to tell pretty quickly, like, whether or not you enjoy it or not. No, I got it from a free website. I thought I had it in my description. Sorry, I'm looking at my videos right now to see. I thought I had it in my video description, but I guess I don't, which is terrible of me. But I got it from one of those like sort of free, what are they called? Oh man, I'm losing my words. The like copyright free websites that you can get like music from and stuff like that to use on your YouTube videos. Sorry, up here I missed one. The ton of French ones are pretty good. I don't want to say much more than that, but like, I was very surprised by the way the first book ended. I don't know if it's a plot twist necessarily. I don't want to say more than that. Obviously, like Agatha Christie, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, is pretty freaking good. And I'm trying to think of other ones, like Gone Girl, obviously, classic. So yeah. I didn't even know there was a Gilmore Girls marathon, so no. I don't, is this, I'm assuming this is happening on a actual broadcast channel somewhere. But I just don't watch actual TV on a TV anymore. So yeah. Yeah, like legitimately, it surprises me that like this is not a more popular novel. I think, I mean, it is one of her more popular novels if you're gonna like officially rank them. But if you're gonna ask someone, like a random person, like, oh, what's an Agatha Christie novel? I feel like people are gonna say like And Then There Were None or Murder on the Orient Express. But Murder of Roger Ackroyd is like legitimately probably her best book ever. I mean, obviously I haven't read them all, so I can't like say that with 100% assessment, like sort of evaluation or anything like that. But This one is so good, and I don't understand why it feels like no one talks about it. So if you're a fan of Agatha Christie or Agatha Christie style books, or you want to give her a try in general, definitely recommend this as her best book. But I mean, maybe don't start with this one because you potentially will be disappointed by the rest of them after it. That's a good question. Let me look at the books I've read recently and see if. I mean, I feel like I read Watch Over Me, and it didn't like full on make me cry, but like there are definitely like it's a story about grief, so like definitely has moments that like made me feel things. I don't like full on cry generally during books, but that's definitely a book that made me feel things. I'm trying to look at my Goodreads really quickly to see if there's anything else that immediately jumps out at me, but I think that's probably the best answer I have right now. I mean, I'm a sucker for Pride and Prejudice. I think I'll always have a soft spot for it. It was my first. I love the adaptations of it. Who doesn't want to be Elizabeth Bennet? I mean, lots of people probably don't want to be Elizabeth Bennet, but Northanger Abbey is like a surprisingly fun book. And I would definitely say like her most underrated novel in my opinion. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't disagree with Northanger Abbey being someone's favorite book. Oh my gosh, I've been talking for a really long time. I didn't have a plan. I honestly, in my head, I was like, I'll go for like an hour. Y'all are asking me a lot of questions. Wasn't ready for this. I thought since I don't do book hauls anymore, and I haven't posted these to my, like, basically I stopped doing book hauls on my channel because I don't enjoy watching book hauls and I hated making them. And so obviously I stopped doing it. And then basically what I would do is I would just post them on my Instagram. And then I just never posted these to my Instagram because I basically just stopped going on Instagram as much. I was like, so like, I've become very like over the internet recently. Again, I'm just like so exhausted. So I thought like, since I'm doing a live as a way to sort of have something to talk about, I can show you guys my books that I bought recently. So give me 1 second. Keep feeling free to talk. Okay. Oh, thanks everyone who said they're enjoying things. I'll probably do this, and then if any other questions come up, I'll answer those, and then I'll probably wrap it up. So I'll go for like, I actually have no idea how long it'll take me to talk about these books. I don't, I should preface this by saying I am someone who is really, I generally don't look up synopses very much in regards to books. So if I'm shopping at a bookstore, basically this is what happens. Like I absorb so much bookish content that I feel like I just have like this sort of catalog in my brain. It's not like an official catalog of like, these are all the books I want to buy, but I just have a knowledge about books and the way books have made people feel. So therefore, if it's made people whose content I watch feel positively in a sort of sense about it, I sort of have that as like a sort of information stored in my brain. So when I go to a bookstore, I'll just like see books without knowing what they're necessarily about. I will pick them up because I know from my book absorption of the past that other people have enjoyed them. So I'm not going to be able to give you very good synopses. I need to stop trying to say that word, of these books, but I will just tell you what they are because it's potentially something that you have heard about, or potentially could be something you will want to pick up yourself. But this is another reason why I stopped doing book hauls. I didn't enjoy doing them because I felt like I was just like looking up the synopsis as I was holding them up, and it wasn't providing viewers with good information. But people enjoy book hauls for whatever reason. So, but I think honestly, I'm the type of person who finds like reviews and wrap ups so much more interesting because I want to know what a person actually thought about a book, not just the fact that they decided to spend money on it. With that being said, here's my book haul. Gachar Gochar is a book that I think came out last year, and it started like popping up on a bunch of different people's channels. He is from some South Indian state. I am also of South Indian descent, and so I got very excited when I started hearing about this book, and then it was and yeah, that's legitimately the main reason. And I think that this is a story about a family. A young man's close-knit family is nearly destitute when his uncle founds a successful spice company, changing their fortunes almost overnight. Yeah, and I've heard really, really good things about this book. There's someone in my chat currently saying that this is a fantastic book. It's all I didn't realize that it was only like novella sized. So I have to say, like, if you live in the Chicagoland area or you ever come to Chicago to visit, go to Unabridged Books. They are the best bookstore in, like, my favorite bookstore in the Chicagoland area, far and away, probably, because they have their main section, which is like normal indie bookstore stuff, but then they also have a like deal section, and legitimately like the books in their deal section are also so fantastic. I think it's basically like overstock stuff. So like this book I got for like $5, which is like used bookstore prices almost. So yeah, I like every time I go there, I could easily spend like probably like $50 just in like the sale section. So yeah, I found this in there and I got super excited when I saw that. I'm just going to throw these on the floor as I work through them. This is one I know literally nothing about, but anytime I go to bookstores, I always look for mystery books by not white people, which is very difficult. So I got very excited to see like Pushkin's been reprinting Seshiyoko Mizo's works. He wrote his books in like the 1970s. Oh my gosh, his first book was published in 1921. I was so off. This one was published in 1973. That's why I thought that. And so yeah, I've been seeing that Pushkin's been republishing translations of his books. I haven't read, I don't think, anything by him before, but I think this is like sort of a whodunit mystery, a Japanese whodunit mystery. So I am very excited to check this one out. Midnight in Chernobyl. I went to this bookstore at the beginning of Nonfiction November, or in the beginning of November, which, a lot of people do as Nonfiction November, including myself. So I very much was keeping an eye out for some nonfiction books that I could potentially read. And so I feel like literally everyone and their mother has read this book at this point. But it's about, the Chernobyl disaster. And I've heard like really, really good things about this book. So I figured I would just buy a copy of it because, again, this was in the sales section. And I feel like this is one of those books that's like, I will never read it unless I own a physical copy of it because I'll keep forgetting to pick it up. And it'll be one of those books that's like, oh, I really want to read this book, but I'll pick it up later in terms of like library stuff. And it's a book I can tell like is going to be a book that I will push off unless I put it on my physical TBR, and putting it on my physical TBR will like, kind of force me to pick it up because I've been getting a lot better about actually reading the books that are on my physical TBR. From Scratch by Tembi Locke. This is, again, another book that was in that discount section. This is a memoir. Tembi Locke is actually Attica Locke's sister. So Attica Locke is like one of my all-time favorite mystery writers, if you aren't aware. And so this is her sister. And so this is her memoir about she fell in love with and I think married an Italian man. And then, an Italian man. And like his family is very upset that this boy has his family's very upset that he chose to marry a Black woman, and so this book is partially about that, but then also like her husband passes away while she's in Italy, and so she's basically like mourning his death, I believe, with like this family that didn't want her to be a part of the family and stuff like that. So I've heard really, really good things about this. I think Jeff from Book Riot said this is what he calls a 5-alarm snot bomb. So like, full on sobbing, snot coming out of your nose sort of book. So yeah, I've heard again really good things about it. So yeah, exactly, Erica. Mine too. I was like, oh, because I follow Attica Locke on Twitter, and so she kept like retweeting stuff about From Scratch, and I was like, and then I put the pieces together. Children of the Land. This one was not in the sale section, but I got really excited when I saw it in the bookstore. This is a memoir, and the author crossed over from Mexico into the United States, and the like sort of trauma that he went through trying to cross into the United States caused him to go blind. And so basically he had to move to this brand new country without the ability to see. And so he talks about like his experiences being in the country, dealing with organizations like ICE, things along those lines, and kind of like that whole traumatic experience. Final book from that bookstore. This was also in the sale section. I don't know too much about this book other than this is a Chicagoland author, and it's set in Chicago. And it's, let's see, you are following a character named Claude, who isn't dangerous or brilliant. He's an average kid coping with abandonment, violence, riots, failed love, and societal pressures as he steers his way past the signposts of youth. So I think it's a coming of age story set in, I think, the west side of Chicago, and like sort of, oh no, it's south side of Chicago. Basically in a neighborhood that's like rife with violence and difficult circumstances and stuff like that. I am very bad about reading authors from Chicago, so I'm trying to get better at it. And this is one that had piqued my interest before. And then I saw it again in the sale section of that bookstore that I love. So I decided to pick it up. Okay. Next up are the set of books that I got from Barnes & Noble that I mentioned before. And so you will see in a second what I mean by like these are books that I'm very surprised were stocked at that Barnes & Noble. This first one, not so much because it's been getting a lot of attention, but it's 10 minutes, 38 seconds in the Strange World by Leaf Shafak. Oh, excuse me. All that pop. Not used to it, and now I'm burping. I have read a number of Leaf Shafak books, and I really enjoy her writing, and I've heard really, really good things about this one. So I don't really have any idea of what the synopsis of this book is. I just know that I like it, Leaf Shafak's writing in the past, and I've heard good things about this one, so I picked it up. This is one of those books that really surprised me that was in stock at the Barnes & Noble. So Sulari Gentile is a mystery writer. She wrote the Rowan Sinclair, I think is the name of the protagonist, Rowan Sinclair series. She is of Sri Lankan descent, but I think she also lives in either Australia or New Zealand. And she's like this super, super minor author. This is one of her books that was published a number of years ago and is now getting like basically reprinted. And it just came out here in the United States within the past couple of months. But she's like this tiny author that I only know of because I picked up a book by her at a like specific like mystery indie bookstore originally. So that's the only reason why I knew who she was. And then to see like this book at a Barnes & Noble, like blew my mind. So I'm very excited to check this one out. So her Rowan Sinclair series is like a historical fiction mystery series. So I think if you like stuff like Jacqueline Winspear and stuff like that, I feel like that's like that Rowan Sinclair series would be worth picking up. But this one is more of like a contemporary mystery thriller sort of thing. But it also kind of has like a weird, element to it. Weird as in like unusual. So like basically you're following these, from what I can tell, I don't do a whole lot of research before picking up books that I haven't read before. But from what I can tell, you're like following two different characters, and one of them is an author who's like writing a book about another character. And then the other one is, I think, thinks he's a real person who's like made up this other person, and you're not really sure like who is the real one and who is not. So yeah, I'm just mostly intrigued by like to see what is happening in that book. Sorry, I need to drink more because I'm getting thirsty talking too much. Another book that I had never heard of before I walked into that Barnes & Noble. So that Sulari Gentile book I had heard of before walking into that Barnes & Noble. This one, but I never would have expected to see in that Barnes & Noble. This is a book that I literally never heard of before walking into that Barnes & Noble. And it has very high reviews on Goodreads, but it doesn't have a lot of reviews on Goodreads. It's called Three Apples Obviously Fall from the Sky, by Noreen Abgiran. It winner of the English Pen Award, if that means anything to you. This is an Armenian author. And I've only read one, I think, other book by an Armenian author, Orhan's Inheritance. So I really enjoyed that book. And I feel like, the Armenian community is relatively small. So it feels like really rare to come across Armenian authors at a major bookstore, like Barnes & Noble again. And again, I'd never heard of this book before. And I looked it up on Goodreads, and it has like some ridiculously high rating, like a 4 point something. So this one takes place in the small community in the Armenian mountains. And I think it's just like following this like community of people. It says it's like a fable type of idea with like humor and heart and stuff like that. Again, I know nothing about these books, which is why I never do book hauls. But I was just like very, very surprised to see an author I'd never heard of before stocked at a Barnes & Noble, and then to see that book had so many high ratings. All right, two more books. These are both books that I'd heard of before. Sharks in the Time of Saviors by Kwai Strong Washburn. I've seen so many people talk about, I had heard really good things about this book, and I feel like it's a book that a lot of people would enjoy, but not a lot of people have picked up. It's getting a lot of comparisons to There by Tommy Orange, in the sense that it is kind of like interconnected short stories. There by Tommy Orange is marketed as a novel, but it really is written kind of like in the style of interconnected short stories. So you are following all of these different characters who live on a reservation together, or who are like connected to people who live on a reservation, and it's like leading up to this single event. And I think that this one has kind of like similar vibes to it from what I can tell, but this one is actually it's like also marketed as a novel, as you can see in the front there. Oh my gosh, this mirroring thing it really throws me off. It says novel, but I think it's also, again, that sort of like lots of different characters in an interconnected story. So I've heard, again, the people I know who have read this book have really, really enjoyed it. But I just feel like a lot of people have not read that book. And then finally, this book is so heavy. Conjure Women is a book that came out earlier this year. And I'm not even joking. I wanted to buy this book because of the cover. It's a historical fiction book that takes place, I think, during the 1800s in the United States. Yeah, it's a sweeping story that brings the world of the South before and after the Civil War vividly to life. So yeah, again, it's another one of those books that from the people who have read it, I feel like have said positive things about it, but it's a book that I think has kind of fallen a little bit under the radar, in my opinion. So yeah, if you've read any of those books, a couple of you people are commenting about how you either want to read some of these books, but if you have read any of them and have thoughts on them, feel free to leave a comment. But I think with that, I'm going to wrap things up. There's one final thing in here that I don't even know what this is referencing, so I'm not going to. I don't know. I have none because I don't know what this is. So, yeah, thanks for joining me on my first ever live. I might do this again because it was kind of fun. Again, I didn't have like a ton of books to do a Friday reads about. And I feel like I didn't have a lot of things to say about the books that I had been reading. So doing a recorded and edited Friday reads video didn't feel worth it, in my opinion. So I figured a live might be better and slightly more fun because then I can actually like talk to you all and I can feel like I feel like lately, not to be a downer or sort of like I don't know, whatever. Basically, like, it feels a little bit like I've been, like, talking to a wall with my videos lately just because they don't get as many comments as they used to. Again, I'm not, like, blaming anyone or anything, and I just think that's sort of the way things have been going lately. Like, I myself have also been pretty bad about leaving comments on videos, that I watch because I feel like I just throw everything into my watch later playlist, and then I just sort of cycle through them when I have time. And so, I definitely feel like, I'm part of the problem. But I think it's been nice because it creates an ability for me to realize like, oh, there are actually people who are watching my videos, and then I can kind of like respond in real time to the questions that you're asking. The other thing is that like if someone leaves a comment on a video, I am not always great. I try to reply to a lot of people. In the comment section, but there's no sense of like conversation, so to speak, in the comment sections anymore, especially because like it's hard to tell. Like even if I like leave a comment in a video, I don't realize when people have replied to that comment, things along those lines. So I kind of appreciate the fact that um, in this way, like you people can ask me questions, and I can respond to them in real time, and we can have slightly more of a conversational nature to things. So this was nice and fun. And I'm grateful for everyone who watches my videos, whether you comment or not, because again, I don't want to make people feel bad about like the way they choose to consume my videos. The fact that anyone chooses to watch my videos, is amazing. So I'm never going to make people feel bad about it. But yeah, just thanks again. Thank you for watching. Thank you for those of you who chose to like leave comments, ask me questions, stuff like that. So I didn't feel like, again, that I'm talking to a wall during these sessions. I was like literally terrified that like no one would show up and it would just be like crickets in the comment section or the chat or whatever. So it was nice that all of you were asking me so many questions. I appreciate it. So yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I will talk to you all later. Bye.